right, welcome back to Pixelated Audio. This is expansion pack 31. This is a video game music podcast celebrating the artists and composers that are responsible for the tunes you're hearing today. And we are your hosts. I'm Bryan, and this is Gene.
Hey, everybody. We're back. MagWest was our last show. We took a little bit of a break. Now we're here in the holidays. We're recording in chilly December. Having a lot of fun, though. It's been a little while since I've chatted with Bryan on the mic, but I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, we met up, like a week or so ago, but we were just just hanging out the whole time. So it was good. we want to do more shows, obviously, and we're like, we should put something out before the end of the year. So we thought, let's do an expansion pack, maybe some stuff we've been playing, or just have fun, get something out and share some tunes. Got some rad stuff today that I've been. In fact, all my tracks. I have 3 tracks. I think you picked 3 as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what your stuff is, but you have some insight into mine now. So I've been playing, a lot more games in the last 6 months than I've had time to do over the last year, really. And, work is kind of smoothing out for me a little bit. So, this holiday season, I'm just enjoying. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft with my kiddos and, a bunch of Steam stuff and just enjoying the madness of gaming again. Love it.
Yeah, same here. I've actually, one of my picks I had some time to play at the beginning of the year, and then I didn't really get to play a lot of games for, about 6 months. And then in the last couple of months, I've been playing a lot of shortish games, 5 to 10 hour games, and I've really enjoyed some of the music in those. I figured this was a good episode to just what have we been playing lately? There's so much great music coming out there. So I know your picks are from newer games. Mine are reasonably new, but they're ones that I've played in the last year.
I mostly picked stuff that that came out recently that I was interested in and got into. So the first track that we came in with, there's only probably going to be a very small handful of people that might recognize this. It's from a game that I absolutely fell in love with. It's called Spilled Mushrooms. It came out for the Playdate in 2024. So just this year. And if you're not familiar with the Playdate, it is a handheld system developed by Panic and engineered by Teenage Engineering. It was released, I want to say 2 years ago or something. And I was so stoked about this console coming out, or this handheld coming out. It's got a crank. You've probably seen it. It's yellow. It's a 1-bit system, so it's not even grayscale. It is black and white. And the purpose of the system is really to let's have fun with games. Let's not worry about the graphic capabilities. Let's not worry about any of that. Let's just have something that you can pick up. It's very small. It's the size of an Altoid tin almost, and you can pick up, play a few titles that maybe stand out to you. It's buttery smooth and super fun. There's some really good soundtracks that have come out on the system. And Spilled Mushrooms, this game, let's first listen to the track. It's called Jungle, and it is super chill. So let's take a listen. So that was the jungle theme from Spilled Mushrooms, and I believe it was composed by Philip Dexter and Choosh. I'm not exactly sure who they are. I tried to look them up, couldn't find anything. Anyways, it was developed and published by someone named John Weechok, and the game itself is it's really interesting. It's like this almost like it's a card game essentially, where and the premise is really really goofy. I mean, you've spilled mushrooms all across the land, and you have to have your animal friends go pick them up, and each animal has like capabilities and like a number of mushrooms they can pick up in a single day, and you have to stack these cards. I'm really not selling it, am I? It's really addictive. Once you get the hang of it down, it's a puzzle game, and it is just so much fun. My daughter, she's 7, and she's been watching me play it, and like, oh, put the goose over on the forest area and have it collect mushrooms over here. And it's a simple idea that can be really challenging. And if you like good puzzles, if you have a Playdate, pick it up. It's $6 and totally worth it. So yeah, that was my pick.
The 2020s are card games are back. Balatro is one of the best games of all time.
It's so good.
I've been seeing so many. I know this is going back a little while now, but Slay the Spire, I think, kind of kicked it off. Not was the first one, but like I feel like people started paying attention to
it. Jumped in right in that early time slot for
I gotta say the Playdate. I remember when this thing came out, I saw promo videos for it. I was really intrigued by the form factor, the intentionally limited design choices, like you mentioned, the grayscale. Sorry, not even gray, like you said,
the 1-bit,
the 1-bit, black and white, the hand crank, and I'm like, this is such an odd sort of thing, and I feel like this is going to be, we are witnessing right now one of these. I think the system's going to stick around for a while, but it's like 10 years from now, people are going to be like, oh man, do you remember this weird, obscure thing called the Playdate? And people are going to be doing our job trying to archive the games and the music from this thing, because it was like almost, blink and you miss it in a way. Like it's so down the radar for people that, like there's so many big game systems and PCs. Who's really thinking about this thing? So
I would encourage everybody to pick one up. It's an adorable system. You could throw it in your pocket. I take this everywhere. It's the best like casual kind of gaming device. The thing that really makes it great though is it has a really well designed SDK. So if you can either write in Lua, you can write in C. It has a like an online editor called Pulp, which you can design games and music all like in this thing called Pulp Script, which is like a really simple game design kind of platform. And because the development community is so rich and has just adored this thing so much, it's been really taken off. There's some really good titles on this thing. And I mean, I even was like curious, downloaded the SDK and built a really simple game, and I was having fun with it. I adored it. You can download the SDK and you can run the simulator on your desktop and basically play all the games that way. It's great. It's really fun.
Yeah, there's some small parallels, I guess you could say, to the Pico 8, which is another one of these very developer-friendly systems, the virtual fantasy console thing. But it kind of looks like, I would say, Game Boy, sort of. At least the graphics, that's not quite right, but I don't know.
It's got a D-pad, 2 buttons, and a crank.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like I don't know what they were thinking with the crank, but they were just like, yeah, why not? Like, let's just do something fun. And there's some really cool like ideas that they have done, like time advance kind of games where you spin the crank and you go faster. I was playing a game called 00 Dawn or something. It's basically Densha Dego, and so it's a first person train simulation game, and use the crank as the braking mechanism, and it's like it works perfect. It's like perfect for that kind of thing too. There's like some fishing games, there's some 3D shooters, the developers are coming up with just some really, really great stuff. And then what's really beautiful about it is the like itch.io community and stuff puts out all sorts of free games, and you can sideload them directly through your account. It's like they encourage it, like it's part of the experience. So it's really fun. I probably have like 50 games on mine, and I let my kids play it. I'm not worried. It's very solid and sturdy. And I take it with me wherever I go. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I should check it out myself, but I haven't had the chance to do it yet.
I recommend it. It's not like a cheap, $20. I mean, this thing is made really well.
Oh yeah.
So
I've seen the
you're going to be
quality.
spending like,
nice.
yeah, you're going to be spending like, $150, $200. I can't remember what it is, but, it's adorable. Pick one up. Moving on to your next track. What do you got?
Sure. So I'm a normie. All of my picks have been from console games.
Normie. Hey, well, okay.
So I got really curious about this game because I've been in the mood for a good Metroidvania. Actually, ironically, maybe, I don't know, 2 of these games are Metroidvanias because I feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck with those games. You see a lot cool art design, but it's usually done in about 6 to 8 hours on average. So, you don't have to be in it for 25, 30, 50 hours, whatever. So I don't know. Have you heard of the game Timespinner before?
Timespinner. That sounds familiar.
I would describe Timespinner as, imagine a kind of Chrono Trigger inspired Metroidvania where you have the power to manipulate time and travel from the past to the present and sort of, change the past to manipulate the future. But essentially you're running around. The combat and a lot of the music actually is very reminiscent of Symphony of the Night. It's just a really beautiful game with really cool 16-bit graphics. I actually really enjoyed the writing.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. You know what? I've seen this.
Yeah.
This came out 2018,
I think. Yeah.
18? Okay.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this. It looks really pretty. It really resembles the 16-bit, JRPG style, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like Castlevania side scrolling.
Yeah, it controls a lot like, and we'll talk about this a little more after the game is over, but it controls a lot like Symphony of the Night. Like your character fires out orbs, but the orbs have different abilities. Think like sometimes they're just an orb, sometimes it fires out lightning, sometimes it's like, it summons a sword, kind of like a Portrait of Ruin, Castlevania type game. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit more simplified from those, but it still has that RPG leveling mechanic and all that. But I'm going to play the track Pioneer's Horizon, which is kind of the, like, well, it kind of sounds like it. It's like a big open space over a lake. So it's very like upbeat. There's definitely some darker tracks, but this one's very like up tempo and a lot of fun.
All right, let's take a listen. good track.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely recalls the 16-bit era very well. It's very, Secret of Mana, especially.
Pan flute, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. Man, that's a really good track, yeah.
Modern production values. I really love this soundtrack. I think it's nostalgic, but modern, but also there are definitely some original ideas in here. It's not like just super derivative and copy-paste. It's really well written. I don't know if you're familiar with the composer Jeff Ball. The name may sound familiar.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So Jeff, I think he's probably most well known for being the violinist / composer for a lot of the Steven Universe music. That's probably his big claim to fame. But he's also worked on a number of projects, such as he was the audio director for a game called Tiny Barbarian DX. He's also been a violin player on some really high-profile games like Devil May Cry 5, Eichenfell, Tangle Deep, Skullgirls, Dead Space 3, Mass Effect 3, Monkey Island 2 Special Edition, and League of Legends. So he's been, he's been in, I'd say, the last decade in some fairly high-profile games, and gradually, as time has gone on, he's been more composer, audio director, that sort of thing, as opposed to just a performer. But yeah, he's great. I love this music.
Wow. Yeah, really good. I want to listen to the rest of the soundtrack. I've seen I'm looking at the screenshots on Steam and
play the game, dude. It's great.
Yeah, I've seen this before. I not sure why. I know why I didn't play it, just because there's a billion other games. But
of course, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I will say, if you look at just screenshots, it's very easy for it to slip through the cracks. It kind of looks like just another 16-bit, Metroidvania type platformer. But I will say it's really solidly put together. The controls are really snappy. The music's great. It's not super long. Like I said, I think the writing's actually pretty good. Like, for the kind of game that it is, it's pretty, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It does all of the things right. It's just not, there's so many indie games out there. It's very easy for this one to kind of just come and gone and missed it.
Huh.
It was $5 on sale. It was I got my money's worth.
I'll add it to my wish list, so when it jumps down on sale again, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, definitely.
You said the game is really good though? Yeah,
no, it's like super solid. Like, I don't think there's any glaring issues with it. It's just like a really well put together game.
It looks like they have Timespinner 2 also.
Oh, I didn't know that. I will have to look out for that too. Huh.
Cool. All right. You ready to move on to the next one?
I am. So what have you got coming up next?
So, it's a little cliche. It's actually really cliche. Oh. Okay. So I fell into the Baldur's Gate 3 trap. It's such a outstanding game that, especially if you are into like computer RPGs at all, D&D, this game like just checks all the boxes. It has so much in terms, like the dialogue is so well done, the acting is so good, the music, the visuals, the story, everything is just so well put together. There's a reason why it was Game of the Year last year. It came out in 2023 for PC, Mac, Xbox, PlayStation, I think kind of all of the above. Baldur's Gate 3, I have a track here. This is called Bard Dance, and it's a little bit more lively than some of the other music in the game, but let's take a listen.
favorite track, dude. That was awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
That was really good, right? That was really good. A lot of the music in the game is atmospheric. It's a D&D game, so they're really setting the mood for each environment that you're in, each situation. And but it is a fantasy world, and so there is a lot of, kind of this old like bard music. And they nail it out of the park with, like I said, the voice acting, the dialogue, and the story, the music, the graphics, everything. This is a gold standard, I think, for future CRPGs, and the direction that really, it's a very high bar that they set with this game. And I think there's probably many people out there listening that either recognize the track or we'll get to this area soon, but the game is well loved, well received for a very good reason. And granted, I have limited time, right? And limited time for gaming, but I think I've been playing for about, I want to say 6 months, off and on, and I think I'm about 110 hours or something into the game, which is, for me, that's like, doesn't happen. Right. So it's a pretty great feeling.
I don't think you should feel at all guilty about quote unquote falling into the trap. I mean, that game swept just about every awards category, dude, for a reason. So good for a reason. Yeah.
It was composed by a Bulgarian composer, Borislav Slavov. He has written a bunch of stuff for games that you would know, Crytek's Crisis series. Mm-hmm. Divinity Original Sin, obviously this game, and I think Crisis 2 and 3 maybe as well, a bunch of other titles. He was, like I said, born in Bulgaria. In 2002, he got his master's degree in computer science and started working for a software company, but eventually decided, hey, this isn't for me, went over to music. And it was interesting because his career as a musician, not being classically trained, was extremely challenging for him. And he had to learn a lot of like tricks of the trade, tools and stuff to kind of catch up to modern composers at the time when he started. And here we are, these AAA, just incredibly deep titles that he is doing composition for. So yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you already mentioned it. I think he worked on Divinity Original Sin 2. I think that's where people really started to take notice of him, because that was also, obviously it wasn't like Baldur's Gate 3 level, but everybody that I know that played Original Sin 2 was like, oh, this is another high water mark for CRPGs. The gameplay's great, the music's great. That's kind of when I started to hear about him. That might have been like 4 or 5 years ago, but it sounds like he's only gotten better since. I have not listened to the soundtrack extensively for Baldur's Gate 3, but if this is any indication, then the whole thing's probably great because it was really well put together. Yeah.
It is. It really is. Like Crisis music is, kind of it's not really a game that you need the music so much for, but it's still just like we've talked before in the past about the Call of Duties and Black Ops and all that stuff, and the music's kind of in the background, and it's meant to be, right? The action is so intense and in your face that you really can't focus on much else, let alone background music. So but it's still really well designed and thought out. And I think the music for Crisis and even Baldur's Gate 3 in certain regards just really matches the tone that the engineering team, the developers and the producers wanted to take it. And I think for this game too, it's just really well thought out, really well put together. And obviously a ton of awards for Baldur's Gate. At BAFTA Games Awards 2024, he won that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
So here's a little fun fact, and this is getting a little bit into the area of tangent, but I don't know, about a year or two ago, I went through this lengthy process because, as an Eastern European myself, I was curious to see what is coming out of countries and composers who are from that region. And interestingly, I don't know the history of it, but it seems like there's this power center in the last 5 to 10 years. Sofia, Bulgaria, the city, I don't know if there's an amazing music school there or we just have an amazing crop of composers that we just got really lucky. But if you see people that are coming from that area and they're writing music for games, they're really good. So I'll give you a real quick example of that. Elitsa Alexandrova writes a lot of the music for Assassin's Creed. That's another composer around the same age who's from Sofia, Bulgaria. I found a couple of others. It's going to be one of those things that people are going to say like, oh, that's odd. Here's another great composer from the same region. What's going on here? I don't know the answer, but I'm telling you they're there. So just keep an eye out.
All right, moving on. What do you got next for us, Gene?
So I've been talking about it. I talked about it in our last episode. It's another lengthy RPG that I thought was amazing. We're playing some music from Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. This is, I don't know how many hours I put into it. Probably 100. I think I played through the game twice. I had so much fun playing this game. This was towards the beginning of the year. The music is more like high-octane pumping electronic music. It's definitely a very big departure from what we just heard. But
is this part of the Yakuza series?
It is, yeah. This is game 8 technically, but the last one, 7, when it became a JRPG, they switched from Kiryu to Ichiban. So it's kind of like a new chapter, and they're, setting up, well, this is the second game, but they're setting up this new arc with this new guy and more of an ensemble cast rather than the one-man army that has been Kiryu up to this point. In the long tradition of the Yakuza series, there's so much great music. So I've picked one of my favorite early boss battle themes from the game called Slugfest. And so we'll go ahead and take a listen to that.
Real quick, because you were a huge fan of Like a Dragon, right?
Oh.
The Yakuza Like a Dragon, right?
I've played every game in the Yakuza series except for like the really obscure Japanese-only spin-offs. I'm a huge fan. Yeah. So yeah, that was the track Slugfest from Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, or Yakuza 8, or whatever. That came out early this year, and I will say, I won't necessarily call myself a cheapskate, but this is the first time I've bought a game full price, basically on release, in a long while, and it was worth it. It's so good. The game is so great. I think the story is a little bit better in the previous one, but the mechanics in this one are they fixed up all the little problems, difficulty curve, whatever, all the stuff. It was just so much fun to play through this game, and the music is just top notch all the way through. It's great.
Nice. I still haven't played it.
No, I know.
I haven't played the first one. I know. I have it on my wish list, and I keep looking at it, and I keep thinking, oh yeah, I guess I should just do it. Right? It's like $20. I
would say like play Yakuza 0, and then if you don't want to get super swept up in the rest of the series, just play Like a Dragon, the first one, Yakuza 7. It came out a few years ago. And I would suggest, controversially perhaps, play it in English, because your dad is Sulu. And the Japanese dub is great, but the English dub of Yakuza 7 and 8 are both really, really good. I think most people are so used to the games being in Japanese that they're like, why would I ever sacrilege? Why would I ever play these in English? Just trust me, they're good. And I know you speak Japanese, but they're really, really good dubs. Anyway,
well,
yeah. What were we going to say?
I mean, I'm like sitting here with my finger on the add to cart button, and
it should be on sale right around. It's the holidays. There's definitely some sales on the game, but
I'll wait.
That's fine.
There'll be a holiday sale in the next week.
They'll come back around. Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about the composer. I think he's a name that has come up a little bit on our show before. Keitaro Hanada. He's a guitarist and composer. He's been working with Sega since 1993, going back all the way to the games Burning Rival and Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. So those are very early Sega arcade games, at least, for a guy who was writing in 2024. He's done music in a lot of the Like a Dragon series, including the very first 2 Yakuza games. So he's been around the series for a while. He also composed on several of the initial The Arcade games. He wrote the music for, I never played it, but a game called Sengoku Taizen and House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn. He was the primary composer for that. Where he came up on our show, he's a guitarist. He was the guitarist on the Sega Ages Quartet game, that Quartet medley that we ended the Quartet show with. That's him on guitar, yeah. And he also did Afterburner Climax, which is like a XBLA, Xbox Live Arcade game, and the Fantasy Zone Sega Ages game, where he worked on the Fantasy Zone 2008, like updated version, kind of like the Quartet one. So he's mostly a composer, sound designer, music producer now, but he does a lot of performance as well, a lot of recording.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, and the Sega Sound team, I can't say enough good things about them. I mean, it's a team effort for sure, but this track is his, so like I gotta give credit to the guy.
Ooh, Infinite Wealth is actually on sale right now. It's 50% off. It's $34.99.
Yeah, it's a great price. Yeah, great game.
All right. Well, anyways, moving on. You ready to move on to? It's my last track. So
it is. Yeah. What have you got queued up?
So this is a departure from. It's a new game, but it's a departure from the more. It's a departure from everything we've heard so far.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
So this is a game that was released this year. It is there's as soon as I say it, there's probably 100 people who are going to be like, "Oh my god, I love it!" It is a game called UFO 50.
Oh yeah. I've heard of it. I have not played it. Yeah.
Okay, it is worth every penny. I was kind of skeptical. I was like, do I have time for this? And it was on sale for, I want to say like $15 or something like that. Totally worth it. Very good game. UFO 50. Okay, so the game, the premise of the game is it kind of has its own little lore built in where you kind of stumble across this
UFO.
What is it, like a? No, it has nothing to do with that. It's like a storage facility, storage bin or something, and you find like all these cartridges that were like never released or whatever, like UFO soft and stuff like that. And there's like 50 different games, and they're all kind of like they're not necessarily like NES style 8-bit graphics. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
But they're actually, each one of these games could be a game in its own. Like they're that good. And I've only played about maybe 15 of them at this point. Every one so far has been top notch. It was developed by like 6 different game developers, and it's got some really cool music to go with it. We're going to listen to a track from one of the games, and this is level 1 of a game called Velgress. So let's take a listen. All right, that was level 1 from Velgress on the game UFO 50. This was composed by Eirik Suhrke. I think it's Eirik Suhrke.
Yeah, I recognize the name. I want to say Spelunky. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to push up my glasses and say, well, technically, this sounds like it's actually from around 1988. The game says it's 1984, but this is close to the MSX2 SCC expansion audio.
Well, let me say, so there's actually something interesting. So a lot of the games appear to be kind of NES inspired.
Yeah.
But what Suhrke did for this is he opted into doing something a little different and used wavetable synthesis, something similar to PC Engine, right? And so the sound, I mean, I think it just works so well. And I'm actually glad that it wasn't like the NES sound palette, right? Because it does give the games this almost, it's nostalgia, but like also like not the, you know, it's kind of not the default of what everybody's going to when they make retro games by, you know, just repurposing NES music, right? So I thought it was a really good spin on, or a really good take on these classic games, taking that route. I think it was really cool.
Oh yeah, that's why I was making that fake nerd rant there.
Yeah,
about it sounding like it does sound like late '80s Konami games, you know, especially the PC stuff. Like Metal Gear 2, I think sounds a little bit like this. It's I think he's. So correct me if I'm wrong, and you'll tell me more about the composer. I think he has written some kind of chip style, but I think he writes more modern production stuff generally, right?
You know, it's kind of all over the place, right? So he's a Norwegian composer known for doing Spelunky, Hotline Miami, Vlambeer, Ridiculous Fishing, and then also one of the main contributors to UFO 50. And the thing is about this soundtrack, let me just say, there's 50 games. Each game has its own little soundtrack. And so we're talking like a total, if you go to Bandcamp and you go to the album, there's 300 plus tracks.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
They did write music for. Now, this game was like a collaboration between a lot of developers. I think he did some engineering on this as well, and it ended up being like a multi-year process with everybody just, you know, cracking out one game after another and just packaging into this like collection. It's kind of like the I want to say, what is it? It's not Atari. One of those games like Action 52 or something like that. You know, where you have a bunch of different mini games to do stuff.
Yeah, like or Retro Game Challenge is one of my personal favorite game collections of fake games, but they're all really good fake games.
They're all really good, and each one of these games is a complete game. Yeah. Like it's not like a level. It's it's really well done, and it had any of these been released on like NES or Master System or whatever it may be. I guarantee they would have been like classics. Now, I think it was all programmed in Game Maker Studio or something like that. But so, you know, obviously you don't have the sprite tearing and, you know, things look smooth, but like it still captures a lot of how we remember it being back in the day, right? Did the soundtrack for Downwell.
Nice.
Man, so many good soundtracks that he's worked on, and this game is an absolute it's a riot. I said I've played 15 games. I got stuck on there's one of the games is like it's golf, but like pinball golf. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's and I ended up playing that for like stupid, just like last night I was playing for like 45 minutes on just like one of these, and I want to go back to it, you know. So but I'm like going through each game and giving it like, you know, some time, at least, you know, 5 to 10 minutes per game, just to see which ones stick out the most. And so far, out of 15 games, about 9 of them or so, I'm like, oh my god, I want to keep playing this. So
I just looked it up, and yeah, I guess that makes sense because Derek Yu was the guy who created Spelunky, so it makes sense he would work with Eirik.
Yep.
Derek would work with Eirik. Those are their names. They sound very similar.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I think this is only available on Steam at the moment.
Yes, I think this would be
platforms. Yeah, more platforms to come. I think Game Maker games can be exported to Switch and maybe a few other platforms, maybe iOS. I don't know. But I think there's some special licensing for Xbox and PS5. So it eventually I can see it coming. I think it'll do real well. The game's not super expensive. At first, when I saw the price, I was like, oh, it's like $30 or something, $25-30. I was like, oh, it's a little pricey. But when I actually like started looking at like how much content there actually is there, absolutely worth it. Like absolutely worth it. And some of the games alone, like if there were only like 10 of these games, you know, I would have been like over the moon, right? So a lot to explore, a lot to go through.
Oh yeah. I'm probably the bigger bottleneck for getting it onto another system is just testing. Can you imagine making sure that every single one of these 50 games passes like Nintendo's testing standards? Because they all basically function like little independent games. I know they're all coded kind of in the same probably, but oh man, I don't even want to think about how many people hours that's going to take.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of the games are a lot more like in depth. Some of them are a lot more simple, you know, very basic concepts. But the brilliance of this game collection essentially is, I mean, what it comes out to me is like people have, you know, a lot of these developers had ideas for something that might not be like a full product. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it has these almost like these nuggets of inspiration, like these really interesting ideas, and they want to see how it played out. And this is the perfect avenue for that, right? They can come up with a concept that's fun, put it into a game, right? That is a collection of a bunch of other stuff. And if it strikes you as something fun and you want to continue playing, you can, right? The overhead, because there's so much content there, it's really attractive to pick this up because there's going to be something for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so even if you only play 2 of the games, like there was like 3 on there that I'm like, I would have paid $20 just for these 3, right? So worth it. Anyways, moving on. You got one more.
We do, but I'm actually going to throw a curveball at you last minute. So my track is very long, so I want to end the episode with it. So I'm going to edit this in post. Find another track from UFO 50 that you want to play just to break things up a little bit so we can come back and talk about my game. Or if you've got another track picked out, that'll be great. But I don't want to talk about this for the next like 8 to 10 minutes and then play my track.
Nope. I got nothing else. No.
You don't have anything else from UFO 50 picked out? There's 299 tracks left to go.
I can, but I didn't. I got to go through them. I mean, all right. Since Gene has graced me with a
challenge,
he's thrown me a curveball. Then, since I was talking about Pingolf and that I was really into it, let's play the gameplay track from Pingolf. Let's take a listen. All right, that was the gameplay from Pingolf.
Brian, you know my weakness is golf tunes.
Yeah, I was talking about this.
Yeah.
I didn't mention the first game, Velgress. It's kind of like a, it's almost like Kid Icarus.
Oh, okay.
In a sense, and then where you have to keep jumping up platforms, and you have like a little pea shooter, and you can knock out bad guys and some blocks and stuff. It's fun. Very frustrating. Pingolf though, definitely play that one because it's just awesome.
Yeah, sounds like UFO 50 is definitely something to pick up, and I think it came out really recently. So yeah, it's definitely going to be on PC for a little while. But
I picked it up. I had it on pre-order actually.
Nice.
I was like, So, anyways.
All right. So I'm going to do everything now before we get to our track because my track is close to 5 minutes long. I wanted to play a shorter track, but like I just couldn't. There was this one track that I know I have to pick. So it's about 4.5 minutes long, something like that. And it's a great way. It's very chill. It's going to be a wonderful way to end the show. When I met up with Brian a couple of weeks ago, I was telling him about the game that I was playing.
I know what you're going to play this from.
You might know. I might throw a slight. Well, you probably do based on our conversations. But so I've been playing a lot of Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, which is this really awesome indie game. Well, it's a mid-budget, like a AA game.
It's a hardly an indie game. It's like
it's a
Capcom,
small,
right?
Yes, it's a small, not very well publicized game from Capcom. So like, below your Resident Evils, your Dead Risings, your, Devil May Cries, there's this small like dev team that's working on these really cool, like arty sort of games. So Kunitsugami is not the game that I'm going to be talking about, actually. But the same guy, the same director who made that game also made an earlier game that was only on Switch. And I think like iOS, weirdly, called Shinsekai Into the Depths. And it's a like super chill Metroidvania. I don't know how to explain it other than I've never played a game where you basically always have, like your air supply running out, where I have not been stressed out about it. Like it's somehow a chill enough game that you can just sort of breeze through it, knowing that, if you make too many mistakes, you're going to drown. But you rarely ever encounter that. The game is pretty forgiving. It's just that there's such a cool art style, like very abstract. It's hard to know if it's like modern day Tokyo and the whole place has been flooded, if it's the far future, if it's, an ancient civilization. They're very vague on that sort of thing, but you play as this guy who's like a diver and, you gradually collect different things, harpoon guns and, you can fly around underwater using your jets. So you can kind of fly around in 360 degrees. Mm-hmm. It's just this really cool game. It's a little bit less polished, obviously, than Kunitsugami, but this one was completely under the radar. Shinsekai came and went. Nobody really heard about it or talked about it.
So this, I remember when this came out, actually.
Yeah.
It was released for Apple Arcade. It was one of their debut titles.
Nice.
And so if you were an Apple Arcade subscriber, which was, I think, when the service first came out, it was like $5 a month or something like that. And this was one of the games that they showcased as the launch game.
Yeah.
One of the launch games for Apple Arcade. And it looked beautiful. It looked really cool. Metroidvania style game. Puzzles and combat. It looks really cool. And when you say it's not as polished, I think it was originally an iOS game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Well, not as polished as Kunitsugami, which came out 4 years later and is on like Xbox Series X and is like at like 4K and 60 FPS. It runs on Switch at like 30 frames. The art style is still super cool. Like it recalls Echo the Dolphin. It's like all of your favorite underwater games, just that vibe. It just captures so perfectly. So I will talk a little bit about the composer before we kind of do our little wrap up and play the track. But the composer for the game is named Chikara Aoshima. He actually wrote the music for both of those games, Kunitsugami and Shinsekai. He started playing drums at around 14 years old. Then he played in a number of bands. He played with a progressive rock band called Zanzo at South by Southwest in 2005. Then in 2007, he went to Berklee College of Music here in the U.S. I don't know if I mentioned, he was born in Hamatsu, Japan. I started to kind of pick up prominence around 2012. His tracks started to get picked up by various labels. Continued to work with a number of musicians as time went on. And then in 2019, he composed and released the music for Shinsekai, which won a bunch of awards in 2020. His first album came out in 2024, first solo album. And then, he went on to compose the music for Kunitsugami, A Path of the Goddess, which came out this year in July of 2024. So before I get into the music, I don't know did you have any comments? I wanted to talk a little bit about the track before we jump into it.
No, go for it.
All right. Well, the track is called Trench Jewelry Box. It is like this just gorgeous, like ambient post-rock thing that just, I don't know, it perfectly captures the feeling of just exploring this awesome underwater landscape. It's so cool.
I'm excited to listen because I remember the game, but I don't remember. Well, I don't think I really played it, but I definitely don't know the music. So excited to hear it.
Oh, you're going to want to go back and play the game. Trust me. It's so good.
Awesome. Well, do you have anything else, Gene?
Not really. I'm here right now at SAC Gamer Expo, or I'm planning to attend. It's the night before. I may or may not be, fingers crossed, recording another show in the near term, just kind of reflecting on some of my experiences. Brian's not here with me for that, but Ed Annunziata is going to be speaking there, so I'm sure I'm going to sneak in an Echo the Dolphin track or something.
Oh, rad.
Something that he worked on, or Calibri or whatever. So one of those like goofy Genesis or 32X games. Even though he didn't write the music for him, he worked on some really unusual games during that era. And David Crane's going to be there too, so I might sneak in a boy in his blob somewhere. But yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That's very hypothetical. It may not happen, but I'm hopeful that I can sneak in even one more episode before the year is over. But I don't have anything else unless you do, Brian.
No. Everybody, thank you for listening. And again, apologies for a long break, but it's going to happen here and there. But we're always excited. We're always excited to get stuff out.
Definitely.
When the stars align. So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you back shortly, hopefully, for the next episode. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds good? All right.
Sounds good.
Hmm.